Hello, everyone. My name is Anwar Khan. I am a full-time faculty in the science department, and um, we have the series of CTE workshops regarding the 8-week course design, and we already have had two sessions. So this is the third and final session, and the idea of this session is to provide a brief review if you were not able to join us or if you didn't have the chance to view the recordings. So we'll provide a brief overview of what we talked about. And after that, anybody has any questions, comments, we can talk about all of that. So let me briefly say this. That we are in April of 2025, and next year by this time, April of 2026, that's when a federal mandate comes into effect for upgrading or bringing all of our course material in line with the requirements for accessibility, meaning that all of our documents have to be screen reader ready. All of our pictures, videos, they must have captions or alternate texts. Um, the fonts, for example, the color scheme has to be proper for accessibility. So this is the reason I'm mentioning this is if we are going to do that anyways, why not take an opportunity to simply revamp all of our material and also perhaps think about converting your class to an 8-week format. So with that in mind, let's review a tiny bit about what we have talked in the previous sessions. And we started out in session number 1 with key challenges of an 8-week course. And as you can see, the time compression, so increased weekly contact hours, that could easily overwhelm students. Um, Instead of 16 weeks, now you're covering everything in 8 weeks. Remember that we are not compromising the content depth. We are not compromising any material that we need to cover in our courses. So if that is the case, that in the shorter time frame, we have to cover just about everything that we need to cover, that we do cover in the 16-week format, that could easily lead to cognitive overload. Students may have a lot of information overload, and we need to make sure they process it effectively and they succeed in 8-week courses. Also, we need to make sure that students remain engaged, keeping students motivated and um, um, in line with their due dates and whatnot, that all will require intentional design, meaning that we cannot leave anything to chance when things are due, how things are presented, how material is presented, and how the assessments are done. So these are some of the challenges that we would face in an 8-week course. So what adjustments do we need to make in order to achieve the goals that we have, student success, first of all? So um, I put this at the bottom, which means that this, in my opinion, is the most important item, streamlining content. That we must review our course outline and look at what are the essential elements in our courses and focus on the essential learning objectives first. Build upon that in terms of what is essential and then what would be nice to know, what would be good information, but do we have time to delve into that deeper? So streamlining content, that's perhaps the most important idea in terms of the adjustments that we need to make. So for example, I will be um, converting a biology course BIS 100. That's a general biology course that I'm signed up for in the fall of 2025. And I'm teaching that in an in-person format right now. So as I'm teaching that in an in-person format, I am thinking about the course outline, and I see that the material that I cover, for example, I'm not going to be sharing that here, but in my first presentation, I talked about that a tiny bit, and I believe I showed a couple of slides about that. That one of the lectures, it was almost like 50 slides long, and just looking at those 50 slides, I guess some people probably feel that that's going to be very tedious. My new strategy is to streamline all that content. I am now delivering the same message without compromising any course objectives or what the students need to master in far less number of slides, first of all, being more succinct, being more thorough in terms of how you present material. And then it's reallocating all the activities. For example, active learning. That's also a tool where we would engage students. So wherever possible, we are designing active learning strategies. For example, instead of a lecture-based topic, how about students learn about a disease and then they figure out what causes it? For example, how genes could be altered in that disease and what can be done to correct it, perhaps. So some of those engagement techniques, so active learning instead of long lectures, and then at the top, I put this thing, modify assessments. And modification of assessment simply means that let's have fewer, more meaningful evaluations, perhaps more frequently. Um, Not a 100-question midterm and a final exam, but perhaps a student gets evaluated in other ways where they can show the mastery of the material without getting overwhelmed. So the idea here is that we shouldn't have to create everything from scratch. The material that we have, how do we use it in a manner that will um, uh, promote success, student success in this 8-week format. Um, so some active learning strategies, we discussed all of this in way more detail in our first session, but some of the strategies I listed here, flipped classroom, for example, where students study before coming to the class and they try to engage with the material, but when they come to the class, they're ready to discuss and strengthen all the material and the concepts that they have done on their own time. Then we have case studies and simulations, and as I just mentioned, perhaps having a real-life discussion of something that is relevant for the topic. So I'm in sciences, I'm a biochemist, so I'm always thinking about how do enzymes work, how are many of the medications that are inhibitors of enzymes, how do they work? So there is a lot of potential for those type of studies. Generating ideas, don't hesitate to use AI technologies. I use that extensively to gather ideas and then work on it, improve upon it. Team-based learning, even though we're going into 8-week format, students should not feel that they are alone when they are achieving the tasks. So collaborative activities, community building, that's another strategy that will engage the students and keep them engaged, keep them interested in the topic that they are learning. Now, on our PCs, computers, of course, we can access all sorts of polling or other strategies for student engagement. Kahoot, for example, or Poll Everywhere, if you have not used those. So those are some of the strategies one could use. These are just few. There's a whole bunch, whole list of strategies one could employ. Now, one thing I really want to stress is that we do not need to practice everything at the same time. Try one or two things, see what works, what do you like, what your students are into, and perhaps use those. So when we think about assessments in 8 weeks, as I mentioned, that this is one of the really important topics. That's when you have low stakes assessments, perhaps more frequent quizzes, to check the progress that where do students stand. Are they getting overwhelmed with the material? How are we going to help them in terms of progressing through the material? Project-based learning, we touched upon this one. Authentic assignments that perhaps replace some of the traditional exams. So students demonstrate their mastery in different ways, not simply looking at a question and choosing from 4 choices or solving a problem on the paper, something more practical. Milestone approach, that means that let's break down a major project into small chunks that are more manageable. And then this is a really important point, continuous feedback. Obviously, we want our students to succeed, and we need to provide them with the feedback. And earlier we realize if there is a problem, and if we can intervene, better results we could get. So assessment needs to be modified somewhat in the 8-week format. And the second session, we talked about course design communication, and there was a lot of stress from the presenting faculty in terms of we need to talk to our colleagues. So when we are designing a brand new product, it has to be a collaborative design. So include both full-time adjunct faculty in design process, more ideas, different perspectives, that will strengthen the final product. And when we think about a stakeholder input, that simply means that when we develop a brand new course for any format for that matter, we need to make sure that it satisfies everyone's need. So in science department, we in the fall of 2025, we are going to be developing several courses, and that's one of the topics we often discuss. We have amazing faculty in the science department. I am a biologist, so I hang out with biology folks. And so, for example, this 150, that's a majors level principles of biology course. 4 of us full-time faculty teach that course. So one person is going to be developing it. So I am making my Blackboard shell available to the professor who is going to be building this so that they have some idea of what I do in my courses. All my evaluations will be available to them, all my lecture material, and all professors are chiming in into letting the person know that how we run this course. So, and any help this our developing professor will need, they will have, and hopefully it's going to satisfy everyone, but I already can feel it that it's going to be an amazing product at the end. So shared resources, as I mentioned to you, that I myself, I am developing this 100, which is a non-majors biology course. I'm the only full-time faculty who teaches that, but we have several adjunct faculty. I'm going to be communicating with them. The product that I develop is going to be shared with them. So communication is really a key aspect of how we should develop the 8-week courses. And if we look at how we can support student success, we also talked about quite a few things. For example, pre-course preparation. We are asking our students to dive in with full energy, and they are going to have to put in a very good effort. Well, we as instructors would need to be ready in every aspect of the course in terms of is our uh, Blackboard shell ready? Hopefully you will have that somewhat ready in terms of at least for first couple of weeks, if not all the way through, and open it a week early so that any questions the students have, anything that is new or brand new students, they need to orient themselves. Also, if they have any questions, they can reach out to you about the course. One of the really good practices in our first session, we covered this, is make a welcome video. Make the students feel welcome in your course, and that goes a long way, obviously. But this is an important one. But equally important is structured weekly schedules. Students should know where to look for what you're going to be asking them to do. So clear routines and plan that are effective in the sense when things are due and there are no surprises. Community building simply means that let's have some support system where students help each other, or they're not hesitant in looking for help elsewhere, perhaps academic support center. Help them perhaps in creating study groups, foster collaboration, and also proactive intervention. Monitor progress aggressively, and if we see that some students are lacking, we need to reach out ASAP. We are asking students to get things done ASAP in the sense that things will be due as opposed to 16-week courses, perhaps quite frequently. Well, we need to engage with students in terms of if some students are not performing well, reach out to them and offer any remedial help or offer resources that they can effectively use. So the key takeaways from all of these CTE workshops were that focus on essentials when building an 8-week course, and give priority to the core learning objectives, and then maximize engagement, active learning whenever it is possible, as compared to simply listening to a lecture. Proactive support, early intervention if students are falling behind, submissions are not coming on time, that should be remedied. All of this in an 8-week course has to be intentional. We cannot leave things in terms of, I don't want to say chance, but in terms of in 16-week courses, we have more leeway. We could try something new and see if it works or not. So in 8 weeks, definitely careful structure every element of the course, and monitor and make tiny adjustments as needed. So having said all of that, obviously, as I mentioned, that um, we are not expected to simply create a brand new 8-week course if we are already teaching a 16-week course. All the material is there. Is simply making it organized in a way that promotes very effective and succinct delivery. So please note that, well, by the way, these are all AI generated pictures, so nothing is real here. But nonetheless, we hope that we don't get into any of that mess like this guy. But nonetheless, if we find that we have some challenges, we have a lot of help available. So instructional design support, designer support, so as expert guidance in-house here at Training College. We can ask for help, how to build things, how to sort of design structure-wise. There is nothing better, in my opinion, than colleague collaboration. We are here to help each other. I have some courses that I'm really proud of them. They're really well built, and I am totally able to share that with anyone. And I'm sure if you ask your colleagues, they'll be able to share not only their resources, but perhaps give you access to their whole Blackboard, so you could see some examples how things are done. By the way, so when so my course proposal was just approved, and then I received the new blank Blackboard shell. Now, I do want to stress that the new blank Blackboard shell is beautifully arranged for us already, meaning that there are 8 modules in it, which are all broken down into assignments, assessments, and whatnot. So we are not building that from scratch. So kudos to Umberto, I suppose. I think he is the one who has done all. I'm sure there are many other people who are involved in that. So I just wanted to mention that a lot of help is available, resources are available. Even when you start with a shell, there are a lot of things that are already there. There are a few useful links that we are providing for you. Obviously, one could look through all sorts of resources, but these are some of the ones. This presentation will be available, and please check these out if something is needed for your particular scenario. And that's all what I wanted to talk about. We wanted to have this session more in the form of question and answers. So, Vicky.
Yes, I have a question about getting access. So let's just say, for instance, I want to see your 8-week shell. How do I get access? You have to ask Humberto to give me access?
I can give you access. I can just add you. And
you would add me to the roster.
You be an instructor. I can add you as either a student or an instructor. So colleagues.
Like if I want to share mine, I go like with my chair needs to see mine.
Right.
So if I want to do that, I would go to the roster. How do you add me?
I can show you if you want to.
It's a project. Okay.
So what we can go on the Blackboard and I can show you.
Because I'm always bothering Humberto for things. We have so many adjuncts that I didn't realize I could do it myself.
Yeah, you can do it yourself.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.